Hello everyone, this is Michelle Brantner, Superintendent of Schools of the Marcellus School District, coming to you from my office with a building project update. So as many of you already know, we are kicking off a building project. Again, we seem to be doing lots of building projects, but when you have the facilities that we have, you have to stay aggressive on the building project front to keep the facilities in good working order. So our project that we're commencing, that we actually already commenced in April, has two main components, actually three main components. The first component has to do with major sections of the roofs of each of our three school buildings being replaced. The second major component was actually a component that was just bid successfully, and that is for an extensive amount of site work that will transform the traffic pattern around our high school, make it a much safer situation for drop-off and pickup of students from both parents and our buses. And then the third component is upcoming and will deal with finishing the building of some agriculture facilities behind the high school staff parking lot. So just to give you a sense of what's already happened, first and foremost, we began with an abatement project in the DMS basement, because one of the components of the first phase of this project is actually refurbishing the two locker rooms in the basement of DMS. And any of you that have been down in those locker rooms, they really have not changed from probably just about the point that they were constructed back in the 1930s. So they were in desperate need of an overhaul. And as many systems in schools, when you touch them in any way on the construction side, you're required to bring them up to code. So that necessitates sort of a complete gut job and a complete rebuilding, which they were in a position to have that happen anyway. So we started with abatement. We had some asbestos in that area that occurred over our spring break. And we also started gearing up over spring break for our roof work. And what happened there, you might have seen trucks on campus or heard noise if you're someone who typically walks the campus or the surrounding areas. And there was literally a truck connected to a large vacuum cleaner, for lack of a better term. And they were vacuuming the stones off each one of the roofs. So part of the roof system on a flat roof is that there is actual gravel put on top of the membrane that covers the top of the building. So we successfully completed those two portions of the project. And at this point, demolition has started in the locker rooms. There was another piece that needed to be taken care of and actually was commandeered by our partners, NYSEG. There is a little house that sits on the edge of the staff parking lot across from the high school, and you've probably driven by it for years and maybe had no idea what it actually was. And that's what we refer to as the gas house, because that's where our service comes into the district, connects and goes to the high school building, and also feeds the rest of the district. So when we realized that gas house needed to be removed in order to complete the site work portion of the project, we were looking for options that would position us a little bit better. And so we actually opted to partner with NYSEG and have new service placed that will separate our three buildings. And that's so that, so for example, right now, if the service to the high school goes down, it takes down the entire district, because the buildings feed off of that. And our desire was to not have that happen. And so we'll be able to achieve that as part of the project as well. So the line that needed to be run to the high school was actually done over break as well. You can see in some of the pictures that you're probably looking at right now, the yellow, looks like yellow pipes. That's actually the gas line coming in, daylighting next to the high school, and you can see the ability for a connection to be made there. Not quite yet, but a little bit later in the project, we will be making the connection and actually filling that pipe and utilizing it going forward. So lots of exciting things happening to that end. So The next piece that you're probably noticing is that there was a fenced area that was set up behind the DMS building. So this would be between the DMS building and the maintenance building. And that's become a staging area. It started before April break. I think the Friday before at 3:45, I told them they can show up. They actually cordoned off an area, put some dumpsters inside, and that became the staging area and the waste out area for the abatement project. And it now becomes the staging area and the demolition out area for the life of the locker room project that will take us a little bit into the summer. And so right now, you can see that they're working in the locker room space. There's some pictures here. The pictures are showing demolition debris on the floor. You're also getting a glimpse of the ceilings have been taken down. And I was a little bit fascinated by the wooden structure that they adhered the metal ceiling grid to. It's something, I've done a lot of projects and seen a lot of demolition, but I haven't really seen a ceiling structure put up this way. So I thought it was pretty interesting. And you don't get the benefit of going in and checking out how the demolition looks. And so I always think it's nice if you can see some of the things that I'm able to see. The next series of slides, there's a couple that you'll see that are showing the concrete bases for the old lockers, and they're in the process of working really hard to jackhammer that concrete out. There's a term we throw around, harder than a rock, and I think that definitely fits with this concrete. They're struggling a little bit to break it up. And the fascinating thing for any of you in the construction trades, if you take a look at it, there is no rebar to be seen. This is actually all solid concrete. That's another thing I don't know that I've seen on a project to date. And as I said, I've done several. So the other picture that you're seeing is the demolition material elevator that they put in. So our locker rooms had 6 windows between the 2 of them, and those windows were removed and abated, and they're now covered with a plywood particle board. I'm actually not remembering which, to secure the building. And they actually hooked up a demolition elevator. So the little cart that you can see in the photo is filled with debris and then elevated right out through that window, making the demolition a heck of a lot easier. So lots of excitement going on there. The phase 2 of the project, we were actually still waiting for the state to sign off on the plans for that project. And I was starting to bite my nails a little bit, I'm not going to lie. But the sign off finally came. Bids were put out on the street, or requests for bids were put out on the street. And we had the bid opening on April 11th. We had a very favorable bidding climate, which was wonderful. Partially because we're doing that work a summer earlier than we originally thought, so that helped with escalation. And fortunately, we had always said any money left over with this voter approved amount is going towards the construction of our ag facilities. And so this is going to help us. You'll see later on the budget ballot, we will be requesting from our community to utilize capital reserve to fund the rest of that work on the ag facility. And obviously capital reserve is set aside for that purpose. It's to help offset the local share of a project. And fortunately, we will have to use less of what's in that capital reserve, which is a good thing. That leaves some seed money for projects coming up in the future. And as you can imagine, there's no shortage of things to tackle. So the board was able to approve the bids for the phase 2 of the project last evening, and we're off and running with that work. So a couple of other things to remind you. I've talked about the fact that there's major site work happening around the high school, but I want you to get a picture in your minds. Basically, from the bottom of Mustang Hill where it meets North Street, all the way up and through every parking lot around the high school, with the exception of the small lot right by the loading dock, and all the roadways are pretty much going to be wiped away. And that will be reconfigured with some expansion. We're finding that when we have events, there's just nowhere to park, and people are parking all over the place. So there is an expansion of parking in the project that will hopefully help with events and getting people safely parked so that we have good pathways if emergency vehicles or just other spectators want to enter the campus and attend or respond to those events. So parking and access to the high school is going to be a bit of a moving target throughout the summer. So my commitment to you is that you will be communicated with frequently, probably more frequently than you might want. But for those of you looking to access the high school, I want to make sure that you know where to go and how to get there. And in addition, you may have a desire to play tennis or walk on the track. You might have children playing in summer leagues in some of those areas. And so we want to make sure that families know how to access our campus and our facilities. So we will be giving frequent updates. At this point, I anticipate the student parking lot, which is the lot that sits right next to the tennis courts, will be accessible through at least mid-July, and also the main entrance of the high school. So that'll be the way for you to get to the athletic facilities and to gain access to the high school until further notice. So one more caveat to remind you of: this project will not be complete for the start of school. So we are still going to be having some disruption to the start of school process. That includes pickup and drop off. Again, you will receive very clear information, probably repeatedly, how to access the campus for pickup and drop off. And in addition, Mr. Free, our athletic director, has been working to push as many of our home contests out till later in the season, because it'll be a bit tricky to access our athletic facilities and invite spectators here, especially spectators coming from other school districts. And so hopefully by the time this project is wrapped up, we'll be ready to welcome people back to our campus for our home contests. So that's what I have for now. Like I said, we will keep in careful contact through every step and stage of the project so that you know how to access our campus. As always, we appreciate your support. We couldn't do these things without you, and we're very positive and excited about the enhancements that this will make to the safety of our campus. More to come soon. Until then, take care and have a good rest of your day.